other hunters. They're your brethren in the hunting community. But during hunting season, they're the competition. You and I have one big problem today while we're out hunting. No, it's not that we miss occasionally, it's that it's harder and harder to find hunting property where you can just shake a hand, go on that land, treat it with respect, and have access. Hunting properties, they're getting leased up, they're getting bought up. Absentee landowners buy land and then they won't let anyone on it. All of these issues, and it's the #1 issue why more and more hunters don't go out in the field. It's just too much trouble to find a place to hunt.
3 of the best practices that I've found that have helped me when hunting public land over the years are pretty easy when you think about them, but a lot of times they're overlooked. #1, early entrances. Getting to a spot early in the morning, for me, is crucial when hunting public land especially. Here's why I do it. I'll get into a spot super early, because I know that if other hunters are in there, normally they're gonna show up 15-20 minutes before first light, and chances are they can push those deer to me. I'm usually farther back in there, so if they push those deer to me, I might have a crack at those deer right at first light. The second tip that I can provide is a neat tactic that Mark uses that I like to use is working the perimeters of a property, especially on really highly pressured land. The outer edges, the parts near the road, the parts that you think wouldn't even be huntable. A lot of times those are the really huntable spots, and a lot of times those are the spots that no one else is gonna try. The deer learn this. They learn the little areas, the nooks and crannies of these properties that they can use that they're not gonna be messed with. You need to do the same thing. The third thing I do is I don't broadcast my spots. I don't tell people where I'm hunting. If I'm hunting public land, I'm gonna keep it a secret. The second I tell somebody, they tell somebody else, they tell somebody else, and you have everybody hunting there. That's just reality. When you're hunting public land, you have to learn how to keep secrets, not only where you're hunting, but how you're getting to and from those spots that you're hunting. Is that selfish? Maybe, but it's helped me when hunting public land because, like I said, the second you broadcast it, you might as well just tell everybody.
So how do you handle this issue of not having as much property at your disposal as you would like to? Well, for me, it's just trying to get as many parcels, public and private, together, bunched together, that I can. And then I create what I call hopscotch hunting. It's a strategy where I just bounce around property to property. Now, I've done my scouting beforehand. I know where the deer are. But as you and I well know, that during the hunting season, once those deer get bumped and pushed around, hey, it's a whole other game. It's like you're hunting something in Jamaica because the deer aren't doing what they were doing when you were scouting. But as you hopscotch hunt from property to property, not only do you get to see what the deer are doing, you get to study what those other hunters are doing. And that, my friends, can be just as much of a challenge, trying to figure out what the other hunters are doing, where they're pushing the deer and bumping the deer, and how to get ahead of their game as trying to get ahead of the whitetail game.
Land of Whitetail is brought to you by Cuddyback. CuddyLink, 16 cameras, 1 cell plan, $10 a month. By Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker. Get armed and deadly with Easton FMJ arrows. And by Matthews Archery. Visit sportsmansguide.com today and see why they're the place to go to get where you want to be outdoors. Find the very best deals on the latest gear for hunting, shooting, camping, and everything else under the stars to fuel your passion. Shop sportsmansguide.com.
So you're probably saying, Kaiser, you forgot your rifle. I did that on purpose because the hunting season isn't open yet. Well, let me clarify that. In Wyoming, the general season is open, but I filled my tag already on that hunt. We're on to the next hunt in Wyoming, where in some units you can get another whitetail tag, and that season starts November 1st. I'm out here scouting, and you might be saying, Kaiser, isn't it a little late to be scouting right now? Well, it is and it isn't. I have scouted this property already several times. I know kind of where the whitetails are, but as these heavy frosts are occurring right now, different transitions with the rut occurring, these deer are shifting a little bit. So we're scouting on the go. I know where those whitetails are gonna be, I know where they wanna be, but I need to pinpoint it. So we're spending our time in between seasons trying to find where these whitetails are. This frost right here on the food source, that's having a big significant factor on where these deer are transitioning and shifting. Hunting is all about strategy, right? Well, most of your strategy is focused on the deer itself. And that's what I'm trying to do on this hunt. But sometimes you get sidetracked, and I'm sure a lot of times you're just like me, you're hunting properties that other hunters also share with you, whether it's public or private. So you've got this balancing act. You've got to have a strategy for the deer, but you also have to have a strategy for the other hunters. Wyoming has a ton of open country, but only limited riparian zones where the whitetails spend the bulk of their time. So what we have to do on these two properties is outthink not only the whitetails, but the other hunters. Here's a good example. We got to this property at midday. I was gonna get set up and watch a river bottom area. When I got over there, looked down from where I was kind of just glassing and scouting, there were other hunters. Cole and I ran into this last year too, same thing. Every day guys come in here and push the deer out. So trying to think ahead and outthink the other hunters, it finally hit me. I'm gonna go to a little corner of the property that I've never seen any other hunters on. Yet that property, that little corner anyway on that property, gets a good traffic flow of whitetails. I slipped in there, set up, started glassing the bottom below me and the little ribbon of brush and timber in front of me, and I immediately began to see deer. The weather hasn't changed much from this morning, except that that wet stuff has turned to white stuff. But the big thing that's changed is these deer have laid up all day. We're seeing a lot of activity. Now, like almost every scenario I get in, we're hunting fence lines. We're hunting one sanctuary where they don't do a lot of hunting on that side of the fence, and another area where, well, they do a heck of a lot of hunting where I'm hunting. And it's not just me, it's about 20 or 30 other guys. But it's the way it is in America today. You're kind of limited to where you can get to hunt. So we're going after it. So to bring some of those sanctuary bucks, they're in a sanctuary city over there, over to our side of the fence. We're going to try some rattling. We're hoping that they're hungry after laying up in this wet stuff all day.
Mark spent a good portion of his hunt on a prime piece of property. However, after interference from other hunters, he was forced to go with Plan B.
So Mark's Plan B wasn't ideal. It was the same landowner's land, but on the other side of the road and a really small little piece of it in the corner. Why not give it a try?
Plan B is to watch a narrow little gap, just a brush line where the deer are coming out of another property. They jump the fence. I only got a few short shooting lanes to get them if they jump the fence, but that's the strategy today. What am I going to look for in this hunt? Well, it's starting to look like we're just going to shoot the first decent buck we see. There's a lot of bucks here in Wyoming. The whitetail numbers are real high. I'm not really looking for mature deer because no one else is. There's just so much hunting pressure. We're just going to shoot a nice buck, the first good one we see, put him in the freezer, and move on to another hunt. But it's all about strategy. If we can get even a decent young buck down, I think we've been successful on this hunt. As the sun set and darkness began to filter in, maybe 15, 20 minutes left of shooting light, a buck did show up. He come across the fence, worked right in front of me at about 150 yards, easy shot, as I was on my shooting sticks. I could have went prone if I needed to, but he wasn't just quite big enough. Plus, it was early in the hunt. Why shoot a young buck so early on when I still don't know exactly what's out there? I let him walk on, watch some of the bigger bucks across the fence do their rutting activity, scraping, all those other things. And at the end of shooting light, I'd had a pretty good night. Nobody come in, ruined my hunt. I think the prospects probably looked good. Something could happen there. Well, with that little buck setting the course, a big buck or a series of does with a big buck in tow could happen. You've seen it before, I've seen it before. When one deer goes through an area and doesn't set off any alarms or red flags, then the other deer will follow. That little buck is traveling by himself, but what I've been seeing as I've been glassing the last few days hunting is that a lot of these bucks are still kind of bachelored up a little bit. They're not, you know, buddy side by side. I think we'll just keep watching that corridor there. That's a good little travel corridor. It hits up with this little brush pocket that I was talking about that is a major travel corridor. We might get another buck to come through there, or 2 or 10 before shooting light's over. Then I spotted another ghost. That ghost made his way through the brush so fast, I never got to see, was it a buck? Was it a doe? The next time I was likely to see him, he was gonna pop right out in front of me. I scanned as much as I could that brush to see if there was antlers on that deer. And then I got to thinking, I better get my gun up. When he comes out, he may see me with my binocular. As I was lifting up my gun, getting it ready, there he was, standing. He had already popped out, and I think he saw me. He was staring right up at me. He started escaping the instant I depressed the trigger. Whoom! Oh man. All right. I gotta admit, I thought I was better at judging deer than I am. When I saw this deer come through the brush, I swore it was a 4x4, but it was thick brush. So you gotta give me a little bit of benefit of the doubt. This is a beautiful 5x5 Wyoming whitetail with big brow tines. Oh, and his tongue hanging out. Come on, buddy, look good for the camera. I'm excited. Look at that. 5x5 whitetail, do-it-yourself hunting. We have been in pressured, just tons of hunting pressure here. People all over us. I drove into this spot today. It was covered up with hunters. So I went to one little corner of this property that I knew where very few people would go to, but I knew it also had a good travel flow of deer. And that's exactly what we're seeing here today. Look at the brows on this buck. That there is a gorgeous Wyoming whitetail.
Coming up, John Eberhardt provides insights on his strategies for how to hunt public and pressured land.
Land of Whitetail is brought to you by 10-Point Crossbow Technologies. There is no substitute. By Sever Broadheads, straight through it. I scent killer gold with Hunt Dry Plus technology. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. B&W Trailer Hitches Tow and Stow, the last trailer hitch you'll ever need.
One thing I refer to when I'm going out of state and even in Michigan is I refer to these DeLorme maps. And in Michigan, when you're hunting public land and knock on doors for free permission properties, I've probably hunted over 100 different parcels in Michigan because I'm losing property all the time. You know, you kill a decent buck and then all of a sudden the owners of the property that gave you free permission, they've got a nephew or somebody that wants to hunt, and as soon as they know they killed a big buck off the property, you're out there in. So you're always playing that game of trying to get new property in conjunction with the public land. But on out-of-state hunts, what I've always done, and I've hunted in 5 different states, is I've always bought a DeLorme map first. Obviously, Google aerial maps on there once you want to key in on a specific area. But what a lot of hunters make a mistake of doing is they want to go to areas where there's a lot of timber. Everybody thinks big timber is awesome, and that's just not the case. This page, for instance, in this DeLorme map, up in here you got a lot of green, hilly. You can tell it's hilly by the undulations on the map. Same deal down in here. In here it's relatively flat. So what you want to do is you want to go to an ag area where you're going to have, you know, typically if you go during the rut, all the crops are going to be cut. So basically that confines the deer traffic. You know, all the corn, they're not bedding into corn anymore. And you also want to look for zones where there's a lot of watersheds. Because basically watersheds are always going to have security cover along them. So once all the crops are down, you know, that's going to be a natural transition zone is through those watersheds. And then typically what I do, once I find a couple counties where I want to go hunting out of state, then I typically order plat books. Plat books from some of these low population states, they have phone numbers and they show you where the people live. So it's real easy to just cold call and get permission. And if you can't get permission, the ideal scenario is to find some decent public land in that same type of vicinity that borders private ag. And then while you're out there, talk to everybody. Talk to the attendant at the gas station. Talk to the people at the bar when you're eating lunch. Talk to everybody. I like property that's about 80% ag, 80 to 90% ag, 10 to 20% timber. And when you're looking at aerial maps, don't be fooled what you see. Until you know what type of pressure the area has, you can't just go on an aerial map and say, oh my God, look at this beautiful pinch point. This is going to be where I'm going to set my locations. Until you go someplace and actually step foot on the property, you can't do that. You're probably going to be dealing with some sort of competition on the property or on the bordering properties. Definitely stick more to ag than timber. You'll be much, much more successful on a short-term hunt.
Do you want to become a really good deer hunter? Don't listen to anything I tell you. Don't listen to anything anybody tells you on a deer hunting program unless they're a seasoned trapper. These guys are the best woodsmen you will ever find. Let me show you a few tips that I've learned from trappers that have really helped me. So the first thing I learned from trapping is that scent control is everything, and I really have to approach it like I'm walking on eggshells. If you put a trap out there trying to catch a raccoon or a fox or a coyote, you're gonna know really fast if you did a good job. If you left any scent behind, you're not gonna catch anything. Same thing with deer hunting. Now today I'm hanging some of my mock scrapes, and what I'm gonna do is I always do is I wear rubber gloves, I take scent control to the nth degree, and I try to keep this as low impact as possible. So the first thing I do is I always have a box of these sitting in my truck, rubber gloves. I keep them in a scent-free container to try to keep scent off of them. It's rubber, it's gonna smell, but it's not gonna smell like me. So I'm going to wipe everything off. I'm just going to take a few extra steps here just to make sure that I can stay as scent free as possible. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some trails into my scent drippers. I got cameras nearby. We'll see if we get some photos before season starts. You will not believe how many trail camera photos, videos, activity I get at these mock scrapes year round, June, July, August, leading up to the season. If you know where the deer are traveling, you can get them to use these mock scrapes anytime. So one thing I like about this Trails End scent, the Bergeson brothers, they developed this in 1983. And guess what? These guys were trappers first and foremost. So this does have a little bit of deer urine in it, but it also has a lot of natural oils, stuff that deer are naturally curious to. When they smell it, they're going to come investigate it. They come investigate it. Oh, there's a licking branch. They work it. It's not 100%, but it works a lot. Okay, one last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray the area. Try to kill any scent I might have left behind. Okay, some people tell me, hey Dan, that's about overkill. You know, you're spraying, you're wearing rubber gloves. It might be, but for me, it's just a little bit of insurance. Hopefully the deer won't know I was here.